Hi, my friends. Welcome back to Healing Together, a YouTube channel dedicated to telling the God stories that are going on around us every day. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you haven't yet, please hit that like and subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it if you would do that for us. Today, again, we hear from Kevin and Jody more miracles, more struggles, the way that God brings children into their lives. And so, please, let's take a listen to what they have, and I'm sure that God will encourage us, bless us, and we might even find healing together. Let's listen.
The spring of '91, we had met another couple that lived on the other side of Portland from us, the Norquists, and they had also adopted a lot of children.
They had 21.
They had 20, was it 21?
21,
They linked them all together.
And he was a principal.
Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful couple.
Oh, yeah.
And they became good mentors for us when we had questions or something like that. Long and short of it, and what was it? It was, it must have been February of '91 that Rick calls us up, and he's telling us about this family over in Sisters, Oregon, that had adopted a lot of children. The story was that they had adopted something like 76 children. They were all special needs children. And as their family grew, they actually set up a school for the children as well, because most of the kids were in some way or another disabled. They had mental disabilities or they had physical disabilities. And so they set up this school to teach the kids, teach the children. And everything was going along very well. And then Dennis calls me, and it turns out that the state of Oregon has decided to move against this family. And the long and the short of it was that they spent like $3 million. I think it was in excess of $3 million.
The state paid.
The state of Oregon paid that amount to prosecute this family based on the allegations of one teacher. One teacher got kind of bent out of shape about something, and so she accused Dennis and Diane of all of these abuses. And so the state comes in and they're threatening to do a full investigation, and they want the children. And so Dennis and Diane contact our friends, the Norquists, and the Norquists said, well, they called us and they said, can you take any children? And it wasn't really something that we were thinking about adding more to our family at that point, but we kind of realized what the situation was. We took 4, and I think the Norquists took how many, 3?
I don't
remember how many they took. Now, the Norquists...
And when we took them, it was with the proviso that we would be guardians.
And we were guardians.
And we became guardians for the children so that when it was over, they could go back.
Right.
Okay?
Well, push came to shove, they went to court, and it took 2 or 3 years to go through all the investigations and all of that. The state was sure that Dennis and Diane had been very abusive to the children, but they could never find any. None of the children would ever accuse the Dennis and Diane of abuse. It just didn't exist. They were going on all these rumored allegations.
Well, it all started in that classroom with that teacher.
Yeah.
And my understanding of it is that one of the children was crying one morning, and the teacher said, "What are you crying about?" And he says, my daddy got hot shots." And the teacher was like, "Hot shots? My daddy got hot shots." And she said, "Did he do anything?" And she just kind of filled in the blanks kind of thing. He couldn't actually verbally describe anything. But then when push came to shove and the sheriff came out, the hot shots she was thinking the hot shots was branding iron out in the barn, when instead it was a video game that he had gotten for them to play, and he didn't get to play. And so he was upset that he didn't get to play. But she twisted it into something totally different.
Sure.
And because Diane had gone down, the mom had gone down to Mexico and had just recently brought all of these kids from Mother Teresa's, one of Mother Teresa's orphanages down there, for all these gang boys that were in there. She brought all these gang boys up there, and what ended up happening was these gang boys started prowling at night. Excuse me, to where literally Dennis and Diane had to take shifts to protect the girls and to protect the little kids. And she, to be honest, it sounded like she wouldn't deal with it. The board came and said, you need to deal with this. They've got to go, and she didn't want to send them back. So it was one of those kind of things. So it got kind of out of hand, and so they were thinking, send them out, have them come as foster, and when everything's blown over, we can take them back.
Right.
Meanwhile,
and
their marriage went.
we went through Dennis and Diane. We became pretty good friends with Dennis and Diane, and we you know how sometimes you can meet with somebody and there are people who are good actors and they can convince you one thing, but Dennis and Diane didn't have that. They were just genuine people who loved children. They were people who had really sacrificed their lives for all of these children. When we met them, they were down to, I don't remember exactly what it was. It was like 54 children or something like that.
I don't know.
I don't know that I have a record of that, but the family had, a number of the children had grown up and left home and were on their own. The other thing that was happening was they were talking to all these families all around that would take in these children. And so all of the children got homes. They got them all into other people's homes
sure they went to
before the state could come in and take them. So, we all of a sudden had to come up with monies for guardianships, and that the Lord took care of that. And we took 4 children. But only one of them did not stay much more than about a month. What happened was that we took Anna, Michelle, Matthew, and Sandra. And Sandra was a girl that was, her mother had gotten angry at her birth mother, not Diane. Right. Her birth mother had gotten angry at her one day and had taken a pot of boiling water and poured it over the top of her. And so her flesh literally just melted. And she was so badly burned. You would understand that. She was so
totally
badly
disfigured.
burned. She looked like an elephant man. And
really bad.
It also made her psychotic.
She was very psychotic.
Very psychotic. And it became, we very, very quickly realized that she was a danger to have around for all the other kids.
We found her at night with some of the other kids' baby dolls and a knife and chop them up, that kind of stuff. So we knew it was like, oh my gosh, we've got to put the knives away. We've got to, get some help here. Yeah. And we did find a wonderful family
up in,
and he was from the Air Force, right?
Yeah, Puyallup.
Yeah, he was from the Air Force, and he had and his wife had handicapped kids, and they
had nursing staff.
They had nursing staff. They had rehab staff. They had 24-hour help.
Yeah.
To keep to keep an eye on
They knew
her.
what they were getting into
Yeah.
when we transferred her
And
over.
so she went to a really
She
good
was-
Christian
she was a-
home. Every single one of them. What ended up happening, because they were under investigation, the detectives ended up coming to our home to also to speak to the kids and to get our impression as to how badly they had been abused before they came to us. And Kevin, after the thing with Pam and the other three, he had learned to use a tape recorder, and he ended up putting up a tape recorder and a video, I think.
Oh, they hated that.
And
They
and
absolutely
he set
hated
that
that.
up before they came.
And I said, it's not going to happen unless I get to tape it.
So he made
Yeah.
sure that he could tape it. And one time they came, and he came into the living room, and Matt was over at the table doing his homework. And one of the cool things about Matt was a kid who came from Mexico also, and that they had adopted. And he had been severely abused by his father. Alcoholism was really big in his family, and the dad would get drunk and take him out and put him in the pig pen and throw rocks at him. And he literally had pock marks
He has scars all over
and
his
scars
head and
all
face
over,
and back.
and he actually took his hand and ripped one of his eyes out. And so he only had one eye and all these pock marks. But when the detective came, well, when Matt came to our home, one of the things that he wanted most of all, even though he'd been at that special ed school, he wanted to learn how to read. He goes, Mom, I want to read. And I said, okay, Matt, we'll get you reading. And I always used these Amish books for my kids. And come to find out from our special ed mentor, she said I couldn't have used a better curriculum because kids with handicaps need to have the black and white and the rulers and go across just like they say, and they need to learn the sounds. And so it was hard work though for Matt. And Kevin came up with the idea because Matt loved sports, loved basketball, and so he got him going by...
We would get the newspaper,
Yeah.
and Matt would grab a hold of the sports section and lay it out, and then he'd lay down on top of the paper and just look at all the pictures and try and read things, but he would never really comprehend what he was reading. He would never really take it in. So one day I'm sitting there watching him really try and wrestle with trying to figure out what this is saying.
Mm-hmm.
And so I walked over to him and I said, Matt, what does that story say? I don't know. I said, well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you try and read that article and then come and tell me what it said? And so he did. It took him quite a while to do it, but he came back. And so that's the way we kind of got him to learn how to read and to enjoy reading. Was that we just, he loved the pictures, he loves sports. So there's a really funny story about Matt.
Scores and stuff,
Yeah.
yeah. And he'll tell you that later.
But Matt is one of those kids where he's very big and bulky, very...
but he's short, actually.
But he's very short.
Actually.
He's very short, but he's just solid. He's all muscle.
Yeah.
And he's the kind of guy that you would look at if you
He's
saw him on the
fun.
street and you'd think, boy, I hope I don't ever meet that guy in a dark alley. But he's exactly the kid you would want to meet because
Yeah,
he's one of
'cause
those
he'd help
kids. Yeah, he would give you the shirt off his back. He would do anything he could to protect you or to help
Yeah.
you. He's just got a great big, wonderful, loving heart.
He's got a good heart.
But he doesn't. He is mentally challenged, so he sometimes has to be
Can
really
only do
careful
so
because he
much.
can't. All the time, he can't put all the pieces together to make it work.
But when the detective came to our home, the funny thing was, is one of the things that he wanted to know was, does he have all of his fingers on his hand? Because he had heard that Dennis had chopped off a couple of his fingers. And
anger, yeah.
Yeah, I just said, well, you can go over and look at his fingers. Last I checked, they're all there.
Actually, what happened on that was that the lead investigator calls me up one day from the state, and he said, we have just heard allegations that Dennis chopped off a couple of his fingers. And I said, well, I'm looking at him right now. He's got all 10 fingers and all 10 toes.
Yeah, but the guy had
and he said, well, I've got to come in. I've got to verify that for myself. I said, I can take pictures and send them to you. No, I've got to come and verify it. So he drove 5 or 6 hours from Sisters over to our house. He probably wasn't in our house 15 minutes. And then turned around and went back home. And that's the state mentality, is they want to find something wrong with you, even if it takes vast amounts of time and expense. They want to find something wrong with you that they can pin you against the wall. And in the end, the other, I want to talk a little bit about Anna and Michelle.
The same was true with Michelle.
Yeah.
They had an accusation that they had not been taking care of her and her legs, and she wasn't getting into. She had spina bifida also, but she has sensation down further than Amy, and she was put in RGOs,
which are braces.
Which are the braces, and she could walk.
Yeah.
She could walk with the braces, but she also had a wheelchair, and so she's a very manipulative little girl. But her whole thing was she did not want to put those RGOs on, and she did not want to walk. Yeah. She didn't want to walk. She was, and come to find out from Dennis over there and Diane, they basically said, oh, well, she's the princess of our crew. Everybody wants to push Michelle around. Everybody waits on Michelle. Well, hey.
That was her undoing.
That was her undoing.
Yes.
And so I would take her up to CDRC, and I would take her to the doctors, and I was like, she just does, I would literally tell her, we're going on a picnic, Michelle. We're going to go on a picnic. We're going out to the park. You got to get your RGOs on, because you're going to want to get out and walk the trails with us and stuff. And I said, get going, get them on. I'd come back in a few minutes. She would literally have every screw and bolt taken out of those RGOs and threw them across the room. And everything would be laying there in pieces. And I'd be, you little stinker.
Yeah. Wow.
You little stinker. And so I went to the doctors and I said, does she have to wear these? Does she have to walk? Well, of course, it's better if she does walk. It's better for her bones. And it'll make her bones stronger, and it'll make her spine stronger. Okay. But I said, what's going to happen if she doesn't do that? And they go, well, I guess if you're going to have a princess, I guess it's Michelle. Because they said psychologically, after being moved and from the big family and being pushed around and stuff, and now you've got time to work with her, and she doesn't want it, she doesn't want it. And the other thing that they said was that she had been abused because she had all these pock marks on her legs. Well, come to find out, I figured out what was going on there too, because what she was doing, she would take those RGOs off and then sit there and just pick her legs apart and make them bleed. So she wouldn't have to wear them. Okay? And so I learned how to get those healed. I had her take baths that would heal, oatmeal kind of like baths to heal the skin, in case it was itching, and then get them out and put iodine on each of them, to providine iodine, to dry them up, and then put leggings, put tights, and then put her pants on over top of tights so she couldn't pick down through.
And how old was she?
7 when she came to us.
7. I thought she was on the younger side.
And I think she,
And Matt was how old?
Matt was 12.
12.
No, 11. I'm sorry, 11.
Yeah.
He was
How about
11.
Anna?
Anna was 9.
9. Yeah.
Or just about to turn 9 when she came to us.
Well, that's where we're going to end it for today. That seemed like a good place to take a break, and we'll come back next time to hear more of what Kevin and Jody have for us and what God has done in their lives. It is quite a story. I'm sure that you believe that. I hope that you found some encouragement, and I hope that you can take a little bit of a smile along with you in life because you've listened to that. Don't forget to go to the descriptions box and look at the descriptions to the books and check one out. If you can, if you're able, go ahead and purchase one of those. We would appreciate you supporting Kevin and Jody in that. That would be really great. If you haven't, hit that like button today. If you have not yet subscribed, please do. We would appreciate your involvement in our channel. That really helps us out. Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm praying that you have a blessed day, and we'll give God the glory for all of that. God bless.